We have Olympic teams, everything that happened at the 2024 Olympic trials, and new information the next day we got from athletes, especially about injuries. It's July 3rd, and welcome to the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation, where he live blogged trials and he has the clickable code of points, so you can learn all the skills. Let us discuss the headlines. First of all, the team in order.
Headlines? What happened? It was such a boring week. We have nothing to talk about. Headlines.
In order of placement, the self-proclaimed Redemption Tour team is composed of
Simone Biles, all-around winner. Second place all-around at trials, Suni Lee. Third place all-around at trials, Jordan Chiles. Fourth place all-around at trials, Jade Carey. Fifth place all-around at trials, Hezly Rivera.
It's shocking. They went in rank all-around order.
I can't believe it.
No one saw this coming.
Did any of the members of the selection committee say we are secretly relieved that they were obviously we're not secretly relieved people got injured, but a little bit because it made the team selection so obvious?
Nobody said that. No one admitted it was easy.
They made it. The injuries made it really easy. Yeah.
But I do have audio for you in a minute from Alicia about that. But yeah, Simone got the automatic spot because she's the all-around winner, along with Frederick Richard, who was the all-around winner for the men, got the automatic spot. The traveling alternates for women are sixth. These all go in order. Sixth place, Joss Roberson. Seventh, Leanne Wong, and non-traveling alternates are Tiana Sumanasekera, and ninth, Kaliya Lincoln. Let's discuss some Simone things, because we're living in the era of Simone, and this might be it for her. All of her teammates are like, she keeps saying she's done. She won over 2 days by almost 6 points with 2 falls.
One fall.
One and a run backwards.
Just a light jog out of her.
A light jog, yeah.
She went for a little morning run, for a 9-1 execution score, where I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah. I was also trying to remember which day she ran backwards, because I was like, that score is so high. Day two.
She had like the 3 lunges back, which would be maximum 0.8 landing deduction, so she got a 9-1 E score, and I'm like, that probably wouldn't happen at the Olympics.
Yeah, I was like, it can't be day 2 because this E score is too high. So the entire rest of the team are within 0.525 of each other over 2 days. And Simone is 5.5 points over 2 days ahead of second place Suni.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Other Olympic facts.
Yeah, so we're looking forward. Finally, I feel like we get to, now that we have an Olympic team, we don't have to have as many caveats in talking about Simone and her records and these amazing things that she's accomplished and first evers, because it's like, okay, she's on the team now. We don't have to be like, should Simone potentially make the team, then she would be, But so if Simone, we're still ifing, because like if she were to win the Olympic all-around title, which at this point she's favored to do, that would be the first woman since Vera Czeslavska to win the all-around in her 3rd Olympics. It would be the first non-consecutive, all-around Olympic title. These are the things she's going for. But she's already, now that she's on the team, she's the first Olympic all-around champion for the women to do 3 Olympic teams since 1976. So that's 48 years ago. Also the first since Latinina to return to 2 more Olympics after winning the all-around title. So when we talk about longevity, I think it's interesting when we talk about Larissa Latinina, her medal record. She went to so many Olympics, so accomplished over all these years. And we talk a lot about that was also a different era. When comparing like greatest ever, and you're kind of like, everyone's agreed that Simone is the greatest ever, Latinina has the Olympic medal count. She has so many more Olympic medals than Simone. And you talk about, it's a different era. People competed longer. Grown women competing wasn't as physically taxing. All of those true. Now we're seeing someone do the same thing in an era where, it's more physically taxing than it's ever been. Gymnastics at this point and all of those things. So those things we would say about Latinina, like, it was a different time, so you were able to do this. Like Simone's doing them in this time.
Yep. Yeah. I think basically after, and we're gonna go into this, the injury Mageddon that happened
Yeah.
on in podium training day one, the the highest scoring all around and bars gymnasts were gone. So it opened it up and made it
Well,
pretty
second
obvious.
highest scoring. I mean, Simone was there.
Well, yeah, Simone. I'm sorry. The after the
You give me a
non-Simones.
cold sweat if you're saying the highest scoring all around gymnast is gone. I'm like, did
No,
someone lose
knock
Simone?
on wood. No, the second highest scoring all around,
Yeah.
non-Simone, has all the highest all arounders and the highest bars were gone. So it made it all easier. But why? I think this was very non-controversial because
Mhm.
it's just nothing
It's
like
always
2021.
controversial for a U.S. women's Olympic gymnastics team. But as far as those go, non-controversial.
Yeah, I don't feel outraged. I'm like, yeah, there's a little thing where you could say, but
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
why is that?
Well, I think that it's
Explain my
not the same.
non-outrage.
Yeah, it's definitely not the same. In 2021, it was like, oh my God, they went by rank all around order to choose the Olympic team instead of the highest scoring team. Because in 2021, kind of no matter how you sliced it in terms of how you decided to come up with the highest scoring team, Michaela Skinner was on all of those teams with Simone Biles, Suni Lee, and Jordan Chiles. Whether you said it was just you were looking at just trials or taking nationals and trials into account, whether it was highest score, whether it was average score, or like drop a low score and average. A rare occurrence in 2021 where that was all of those were the exact same team by about like 4/10. You had Michaela Skinner on the team. In 2024, depending on how you decided to arrive at the highest scoring team, you got different teams. And in most of the cases, you get the team that was named. They just also happen to be the highest scoring all around. So whether the selection committee actually took that into account or was just like, highest scoring all around and it makes sense, so that's what we're going with, I don't know. But there's more justification for this group as the highest scoring team.
There were scenarios where you could switch out one person or another, and
Right.
that was
So
Joss Roberson.
right. Peak score from trials or including the nationals in your highest scoring teams, doing it like the men do. If you had the men's selection procedure in place for the women, it would have arrived at the same team. But average score from trials only, which is kind of the most important one, you would get Joss Roberson in place of Jordan Chiles by less than a tenth. So it's the kind of the situation where I feel like Joss Roberson definitely has a case where it's like, my client can sue if you wanted to. And I have a case. She has a case. But, it's not a case where they actively ignored the highest scoring team to take the all around standings. And then if you step back, of course, you see that Joss Roberson would have been on the highest scoring team from trials from the trials average because of beam, since she stayed on beam really well both days, and her beam average was better than Simone's and better than Suni's, and Suni's beam score wouldn't count for the team because of that second day, even with the scoring, which we'll talk about later because I have some things to say about that. But like if you're presented with a lineup question of like, we have Joss Roberson and Suni Lee, who are we putting up on beam in the team final at the Olympics? You're putting up Suni. So I think that's where you get the non-controversy, because when you step back, you're like, yeah.
Yep. And I have to go back to the 2021 team controversy again too. And we had, a high performance coordinator, Tom Forster, who said we don't think it'll come down to tenths. So he didn't care about the 4/10 that he was losing by not putting Skinner on the team. And in a recent interview, he intimated that wanted to avoid the 2016 controversy by just going by rank order and not caring about a couple tenths, which of course we know what happened, and Russia won when Simone was out, and that's exactly what everybody knew could happen except Tom Forster, but he's gone now.
Well, I don't think anyone expected what actually happened at the 2021
Russia did.
Tokyo Olympics. Russia was doing their own thing. No one expected that Simone was going to be out in the team final. I will give that. Like, that's not one of the scenarios that you planned out for. But, when you haven't selected the highest scoring team, it just exacerbates that kind of perception. But I think this team selection is actually much more like 2016, in which case, because it's the highest scoring team in most of the ways you cut it, like it was in 2016.
Yep. Speaking of Joss being the first alternate, she was very congenial. She's she was like, I know my role is I have to be ready to go at any time. And she's already started her classes at Arkansas. She's ready to start classes in Arkansas this fall. She's super excited about it. So like she was.
You're saying she's way more mature about it than I would have been? Is that what you're saying? Where I would have been like bringing spreadsheets and like anonymously sliding them under Alicia's hotel room door and just being like, with just M's, just on the front, which is what I would have done.
Exactly.
You think she didn't do that? We're pretty sure.
Yeah, as far as I know, she didn't. At least by the time I saw her on Monday morning, she was not like that. So it was very nice. Cool. We have some facts about this team that will blow you away and show how many. Oh, but before we get to those, I do want to play some audio of Alicia. She's talking about why Heazly was chosen. And just so you know, some of these are recorded in the mix zone and some, so you'll hear some background noise, some were not. But anyway, there's a little background noise. Some people were like, had a real problem with hearing a backup machinery sounds in another video. So it's very soft. You can hear some background sounds. We could also hear a toilet being flushed very loudly for some reason, but that's not in the video. You're welcome. Okay, so here's what Alicia said about choosing the team.
That fifth spot kind of came down to what we felt like we were lacking as a team, and that was bars and beam. And so Heazly really just delivered tonight, putting up 2 great scores. And we went back and compared her start value, her execution, and we felt like she'd be a good person to fill that last spot. And dynamic, and it's also investing in our future. She could be also a good person who could be looking to LA in former years, so giving her that experience. But she really delivered tonight, and I was really proud of her performance.
Obviously, a lot has changed since Wednesday. But prior to coming here, how often was Heazly kind of in the conversations that you guys were having?
You know, like she was always somebody that you were keeping an eye on because she has such potential, and she was kind of figuring her way out. Transitioning from junior to senior is so hard, and Valeria had a great way of preparing her by like giving her a ton of difficulty to work with and then scaling her back to allow her to build that confidence and up her start values. So she was always someone we're keeping an eye on, but with the way the cards fell this week, it really just gave her a huge opportunity.
Were there any athletes for over whom the discussion was really kind of contentious or difficult?
Honestly, it was a pretty cut and dry, easy decision. Obviously, like emotions get tied in, and we all care about these athletes so much, and we're invested. So that gets hard. But I think we went by team scenarios and what we saw in the numbers, and it just made sense.
What do you think about? I think that all totally makes sense. What Alicia said.
What was interesting to me, and this may have been prompted by the question, I don't know, was that talking about what the 5th spot came down to. Because by like halfway through the second day of trials, I was like, oh, Heazly's on the team. And now it's a question of like Jordan Chiles or Joss Roberson, not Heazly, but it still seems like that prior 4 was in mind. And then they were talking about Heazly. And also, what I thought was interesting was saying where they needed people was bars and beam. Yes. Because bars, you have Suni, Simone, and Jordan Chiles, so you don't necessarily need someone for bars. That tells me that like 4th routine qualification thinking, backup thinking is very strong in terms of how they're thinking about the team as well.
And we talked about this a lot in the previews, but you can only bring in an alternate if something happens to a certain point, and then you can't use any alternates anymore. So it is really important, especially at what they all learned in Tokyo, with Simone being out, and also with this happened to the Ukrainian team as well, once the men's team. If you need to have somebody that can go if you need them already there to fill in on any event. And I think that is part of what they're thinking, because you can't get an alternate in at the late stage.
They do not make risky decisions the way I would, where I'm like, highest team score. If someone gets injured, but you got to go for it. Yes. We saw that last year at Worlds, and I think this year it's more, clear cut, but they don't want this is the safest team they could have picked in terms of event coverage.
I thought it was, I know that Alicia did not say this was the reason Heazly was chosen, but she did say, quote, and it's also investing in our future about choosing Hezly. And I was like, oh, you don't want anyone to think that you're saying you chose her because it's an investment, not she, there's any reason except she earned it with her scores. So, but that was, an aside that she added at the end. So, yeah. And
I feel like that's more one of those post hoc things where you're like, this is the team we picked. And also a plus that, although, if you had said Joss, if you had picked Joss, if you had picked Tiana Sumanasekera, that's kind of, even though Joss has more worlds experience, they're kind of all in that newer generation of senior elites. So it's kind of everyone.
Yeah. All right. Amazing facts about this team with 2 Olympic all-around champions on it, not to mention a floor champion as well.
Yeah, 2 Olympic all-around champions on the same team has never happened before.
Ever.
They've actually, multiple Olympic all-around champions haven't ever competed at the same Olympics together. Ever. 2 people who previously won all-around titles, let alone on the same team. So that is noteworthy in terms of the accomplishment of those athletes, in terms of changing the longevity expectations of women's gymnasts, of gymnasts in general. It's a significant benchmark, certainly. Because before Simone, now going to her 3rd Olympics, only 3 American women had gone to 3 Olympics. And 2 of them were a long time ago. Muriel Grossfeld, Linda Mulvihill, and then Dominique Dawes, 92, 96, 2000. And Dominique Dawes was the last one. So that is also very rare.
Yeah. We feel like that hasn't been that long, but it actually was a very long time ago.
I know, to the children out there, it was a very long time where I'm like, who's ready for the Olympic team? Dominique Dawes? Oh, but also, wouldn't that be great?
Oh, I would love it. I bet she could still bust out a beam routine. No problem.
Which past U.S. Olympian would currently do the best beam? Retired U.S. Olympian would currently do the best beam routine? I mean, I know the answer because it's Jordan Weber or
Shannon
Kayla
Miller.
Ross. They're, I don't know. I think Kyla's the readiest.
You think so?
I think Kyla's put in the numbers.
Kyla?
She has the numbers in the gym. She's confident. She's ready to go. I would trust her at any moment.
Kayla Ross did get married this weekend. And
did she do a beam routine?
She did a beam routine down the aisle. They just set it up.
She could have. She should have. And
she absolutely could have. Okay, so any other facts, or you want to save those for the Olympic preview? Because there are many things that could happen here at the next.
Yeah, I think we have, a lot to Olympic preview. I don't need to get too much into the weeds because I'll just be here for like an hour being like, in 1964, this person did this and no one has done it since. And everyone will be like, times 2, times 1.5. Can you do more than times 2, times 5?
The most exciting thing for me, I think, is that Suni could be the first back-to-back all-around champion in 56 years. That is really exciting since Chazlavska. I say that name 10 times fast. All right. Let's go back to podium training and talk about injury-ageddon. Because before the meet started, we were like, well, the team is Simone and Chiles, and then Skye, and then probably
Suni.
Suni and DiCello probably. But like if Hezly finishes 5th, she'll definitely be on the team. That's what we said. People are like, no way. And obviously that's what happened because we're always right. So we go to podium training. Skye, who was coming into this meet in 2nd place, hit everything, was looking the best we've ever seen her, was just killing it on bars. Amazing. Skye Blakely tore her Achilles in podium training on the takeoff for a full twisting double layout. And that was horrible. The next day, Chiles, who was already dealing with a shoulder injury that took her out of championships, she petitioned to Olympic trials. She did her warm-up vault on competition day, and she injured her knee. And she decided to not pull out of the meet. She could not do a full run down the runway, but she did do a bar routine. Chiles was super impressive doing that bar routine despite the injury, almost taking her dismount. She was incredible. Let's just give her kudos for that. She won bars on night 1.
Yeah.
Only Suni would score higher than her on night 2. She did not continue on night 2 of women's competition. And here's what Alicia Sacramone had to say about Chiles and age.
I haven't been told the official diagnosis for Shy, but I'm assuming it was a case that physically she was not even able to be in the consideration.
It would not have been in her best interest for her health to do it. And I know that was one of the questions she had. She's like, if I brace up, and we're like, medical staff, and we're like, yeah, it's not worth your health.
How difficult the conversation was that?
It was hard, and I think there's nothing we can say to lessen that emotional blow. So just letting her know that we're there for her, and if she needs us to like shoulder cry on the vent to do whatever, that we're there for her. But it's hard.
Whose decision was it for her not to compete? Was it hers, or did you?
It was hers. It would never be my final say. That's always the athlete and coach and medical staff decision together.
How difficult? I'm sorry.
Well, am I understanding right that you basically told her if you compete, you probably won't make the team?
That was never said.
Okay.
No, it was more of they went to get imaging, and we were informed after the fact, and we supported her. I think the preconceived notion of like you're only good at gymnastics till you're like 16, 17, 18, that has changed drastically. The older you get, the easier it becomes. You're starting to go in autopilot, and you know your body better. So to be able to be like, all right, today's going to be a good day to do. I'm going to do vault today because I feel like my body's can handle that.
So I do like that she talked about age the way she did, because at the end it was answering a different question. And I feel like this is going back to, this is the first time 2 Olympic all-around champions have ever made it to the Olympics at the same time. And supposedly it's the hardest gymnastics ever done. But, we got to change the narrative about it's a teenager sport. There's one 16-year-old who made it on the team by her own merits, but also because all the, some of the older gymnasts took themselves out of the competition, or their bodies decided to take themselves out. So themselves. The other injury came.
Kayla DiCello, which Achilles on the first day on vault, who was also, a major contender for the team. By no means a lock, but, had things played out.
Yep. One of the other adults, and was battling lower leg stuff all week. And then that was it. Her Achilles went, and then she went home right away. So she's another one that wasn't there. Jordan Chiles.
Which we learned after trials.
Yes.
Was dealing with injuries that we were not aware of beforehand.
Yeah, I didn't know this. And so she told us this on Monday. She said that earlier in the year, she had an AC joint sprain in her right shoulder. She said, quote, saving myself. This is how it happened. Quote, saving myself from hitting my head, and I landed on my shoulder. Then this happened in the gym at WCC. So then she told us about the other injury. So I have abbreviated, I've cut a little bit of the audio just to help it make more sense. So here's what Jordan said.
Well, I actually had 2 injuries. One I didn't want to say anything about until after everything was done. So my knee, actually, I tore my LCL and I fractured my fibula. I did that before classics. I think, knowing that I had those setbacks kind of made me realize I don't need to have these setbacks to make me feel like I'm nothing. These setbacks are only going to make me stronger, and I'm going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing until, I can feel like me again. And that's how I felt going into trials. I was like, I feel like Jordan. Great.
You don't have an LCL right now? Or
No, I have one. I think.
It wasn't all the way.
I think. No, I'm just kidding. I have one. It wasn't. I didn't tear all the way. It was a partial tear. Yeah, it was a partial tear. But I have a fracture of my fibula.
So now you have a fracture of your fibula still.
Yes, because you can't do anything about it because it's like a bone bruise. But since I bone bruised it so hard, it just cracked it a little. I think it's kind of the doctor told me that it will heal on its own. It's a very common injury to have, especially basketball players. They get them all the time.
So she told us that we confirmed like she still has this fracture. And then after we had all done the interview and reported on what Jordan said, then her mom went on to Twitter and gave an update that said, quote, "It is fully healed, was always non-surgical." And she has a 6-part Twitter thread explaining the full timing and everything. But
It's also like, what I mean, you're talking a difference, like a distinction without a significant difference in terms of practice. Like, it's not like it requires. It was not something that required surgery or medical intervention. So whether it's still a little bit, it's still on the heel or it's fully healed, the athletes, you hope athletes are getting as much, medical advice, especially adult athletes, as they can. And then, if it's like something that will heal, it's at the end of the day, it's your decision, or with advice from your coach on whether, like, this is manageable for me. I can compete with this, or I can't compete with this.
Yeah. And the fibula is, parts of it are non-weight bearing. So it's not like, and she said it doesn't hurt her. So it's just another thing.
She did her gymnastics. She's cleared. If it's not hurting her, go for it.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about, let's do a little update for you on some things that are happening in GymCastic land. So some gym nerd updates for you. You guys have a dossier to download all about the deductions, so you can be an absolute expert. So an apparatus gym nerd guide. We also, if you missed our immediate reactions right after the women's team was named on Sunday night, you can still buy a replay ticket for the live show for the next 2 weeks. And basically, you can see us record our podcast live. There's some games, and then there's some folks who are in the audience who popped up. This is not one of those like, there's a special guest who, pours their heart out and tells you all their deep, dark secrets. It was like us doing the podcast in front of an audience. It was really fun. Kensley came up. Christy Phillips came up and told Spencer the story. Have you watched it yet? The story Christy Phillips told?
I'm not familiar with the live show. I went to sleep immediately after.
I figured you would be resting yourself.
But apparently I can still watch the replay.
You can. And it will be a story we refer to until the end of time.
Okay.
This story she told.
All right, I'll do my back research.
Yes, you're gonna love it. Fact checker and Amy Borman's book is now available for pre-order. The book is, so Amy Borman coached Simone to 15 world and Olympic medals, all the way through her gold medal at the Rio Olympic Games. And the book is called The Balance, My Years Coaching Simone Biles. And you can pre-order it right now as of this second on Amazon or at Barnes & Noble. And you'll see Fact Checker's real name right there on the cover if you pre-order it.
The curtain has been drawn back. That was really elegant. I was trying to do a Wizard of Oz reference, and it came out really well. It was a really good one. It's one of my best.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Are we gonna have Line Brain versus Chemo Brain?
Yeah, we're gonna have that for a while. We're gonna have the championships coming up.
We should give each other little awards for each time. New members, you can watch our behind the scenes where we answer all of your questions, and I will tell you all the behind scenes stories from traveling to the Olympic trials. And I have so many stories to tell you. So that's always at noon Pacific time on Fridays. So we'll be doing that on this July 5th. And and then if we're at competitions, then we do it right after the competition ends, like we did this past week. Olympic trials fantasy winner is iBest. Or ILBEST. Is that a capital I? I think so. iBest? Yeah, iBest. Won. So congratulations. And you have won a mini commission, and you will be sent a link to order your mini commission. We have a mini commission coming up today. We have a Paris Olympics fantasy game coming soon. So look for that. If you're not already signed up for our newsletters, make sure you do. And what else? That's the major news. So let's talk about routine by routine. Let's go athlete by athlete. Who did what? Our favorite moments.
I do have some overall thoughts beforehand.
All right.
Because I haven't watched the live show. I don't know if you talked about this, and probably did. But I haven't gotten to say my overall thoughts, especially about day 2. And the things that impressed me the most was how well the contenders showed up on day 2, particularly on beam. I was thinking one of those like big personality college gymnastics coach quotes that sticks in my head for my entire life for no reason is there was a time Aaron McAdeg was a freshman at LSU. They were in the semifinals. Fall first up on beam, and then Aaron went second and also fell. And then they were eliminated in the semifinals because they were counting a bunch of falls on beam. And then Dee was interviewed about like what happened out there today. And she was like, well, we had a fall and then the freshman lost her mind. And that's just in my head forever. The freshman lost her mind. And you would not have been surprised on day 2 of trials to have we went to beam and the freshman lost her mind day with suddenly an Olympic spot that you did not expect to be up for grabs as recently as 48 hours ago was suddenly up for grabs and, you know, not insignificantly dependent on beam. And I was particularly impressed by Hezly Rivera and Roberson and Tiana Sumanasekera and how well they kept it together on beam and did, you know, the best routine I've seen this year on beam from all 3 of them.
Yep.
And then Simone and Suni and Jordan were like, we're on the team. Get rid of this stupid beam. I don't care about it. But I was, you know, I think that was the highlight of the competition for me. And the most impressive thing was that they didn't let the very understandable nerves of the moment manifest in their competition routines that I think speaks very well for their presence of mind, their maturity, how well they were performing and how well they were doing and can continue to do in the future.
And it won't surprise you that my overall thoughts are how much, first of all, I stand by my, what I said that Simone had already chosen her team because she was running around coaching everybody, helping everybody. And she did this for a lot of people, not just people who made it, but she was already like, had this, and then we learned after that the team had already had this redemption tour saying this week it came about that's what they were saying. They were going on a redemption tour to Tokyo. They decided they were going to make it. She was, and going back to who she was coaching, she was even coaching Lowe and Malomo by the end. Like it was everybody, not just the Olympians. But the real cultural change, besides Aly Raisman actually deigning to grace USA Gymnastics with her presence on the floor on the final day, which was amazing, and I think is the biggest show of culture change that Aly Raisman will be associated with USA Gymnastics in any way, is that the team were a team and they did what they needed to do on the floor and they went to each other for help and they were totally bonded. Instead of it being everyone is also bonded to their coaches, but they were helping each other the way you see a college team do, the way you see a team that always works out every single time together do. And that was so different. Simone was even helping Brian Carey coach vault with taking videos of Simone and then talking to him or Simone of Jade and then talking.
Simone could take videos of herself during vault. I wouldn't put it past her to be like, I took this video of myself doing a Yurchenko double pike, deal with that.
Yeah, we have pictures of her sitting with the video, like talking to Brian Carey and going through it. And it was just, that was such a different vibe. And it's been trending that way, but it was so different than the years we've seen in the past. And there's been other examples of that this year, but this was the most united team, united group of gymnasts that I've seen. And it made me so, so, so happy to see that. Let's talk about Simone and some routines.
I don't think, like, I feel like Simone's impression will probably be of like struggling on beam or running backward out of her vault on day 2. And our impression is how like it doesn't matter at all. She hit floor, she has a huge D score, she won by 5.5 points. I think you were definitely pleased that people had falls on beam so that it kept up you can now for another 4 years, you've got everyone always falls at Olympic trials and they still make the team. It's not the end of the world.
Every Olympic trials preview, we tell people, everyone for 50 years, you can fall and make the team. And so this team was just,
depends on who you are, but yeah.
When you're Simone,
certainly.
It depends. Or Suni or Jade. Yeah. So it was fine. But yeah, did her double pike both days. Mm-hmm. She did the chung the first day. Sorry, Jordan fell on beam, not Jade. Jade did not fall on beam. Did I say Jordan? Explaining, I think one thing that she explained so well with her gymnastics was why E-score matters, because she got a higher score on night 2 on her beam routine that she did night 1. Night 2, she fell off beam. Night 1, she just had a bunch of little wobbles and little things. That's the night that she dismounted and then said, fuck, right into the camera. And the whole audience, all 16,000 people, 20,000 people in there, all giggled because it was so relatable. And so, yeah, I think.
Yeah. And then day 2, when she got off beam, she was like, that was so good, because it really was. Everything else about that routine other than the fall was perfect. Like the best she could do beam routine. And then she fell on one element. But it was, yeah, I mean, it certainly should have scored higher than her first day beam. If a fall is 1 point, because she had more than a point worth of accumulated uncharacteristic errors on the beam on day 1.
13.65 on night 1 with all the little things, and then 13.9 with a fall. That's how good it was. So Simone did talk about this, and here's what she said about the redemption tour, which is what they've been calling their return to the Olympics, about age and about affirmations, which you'll love, Spencer.
Okay.
I feel like we have a lot of weight on our shoulders to go out there and prove that we're better athletes, we're more mature, we're smarter, we're more consistent. But don't quote me on that, because not tonight. But, you know, we have to get that out of the way. You feel me? We have to get that out of the way. But we are in training, so if we can just do what we do in training, then I think we're going to hit it out the ballpark. Yes, so now I definitely have to apologize to Allie, calling her grandma, because, I feel like I'm way older now than me calling her grandma when we were younger. And, you know, it's, 11? So it's definitely past my bedtime. So I know Allie would be cracking up right now. But yeah, it is crazy. I'm a lot older. I'm more mature. What was the rest of the question? See, I'm forgetting.
The recovery that goes into doing.
Oh, the recovery. Yes, the recovery. I definitely have to take care of recovery mentally, physically. After classics, I swore I couldn't walk. I was like hobbling to the plane, so that was exciting. After championships, I felt a little bit better. And after day 1 of trials, I was actually surprised I could walk. So I was like, whoo, I'm actually not as sore, I'm not hurting. So it takes a big part. So recovery, I just have to take a little bit more serious. Back in Rio, I could do anything. I'd never needed tape, nothing. I was just like a little hamster on a wheel, always running. Affirmations, actually, no, they're all explicit. I can't really say them, actually.
That's a girl.
Yeah. I feel like this is the US's best interview Olympic team. Like an all-star team of like great quote machines. This team is the winner of the history of US Olympic teams.
Absolutely. And everyone's a good interview. Everyone explains everything. No one is like afraid to say how they feel and talk about stuff. Like even Hezly is such a great interview, so mature. Like there's no elite dead eyes when you talk to her. It is so different talking to her than other generations of gymnasts her same age. Like she's a full human being. Many people mention this about her, and talking to her, she is she's amazing. She's ready for this. Like, yeah, I was super impressed with her. Suni had some things to say. Let me play them for you. This is what Suni told us about age, about her USOPC therapist who's helping her, and how she handles pain.
Yeah, I feel like it just goes to show that like age is just a number. I mean, I feel like as we've all gotten older, we've all gotten better. So it's not for the little girls. I mean, Heazly is so young, though. I cannot believe that she just turned 16. And we all feel, I feel so old compared to her. And I can't imagine how Simone feels. I mean, that's a big age gap. but a lot. I mean, I feel like everything, obviously, like it goes into like all of my past trauma, like everything deeper. So we're just like getting to the bottom of that, and it just feels so nice to be able to just like talk about everything And even just like my breathing exercises and journaling keywords, like I always have my keywords that I remember whenever I go out and compete. And she just constantly reminds me, like when I was competing, I would look over anytime I got nervous and she'd be like, remember your keywords, and or like do a little like facial expression. And I'm like, okay. And I would just like blow a candle, like just, I don't know. She's helped me a lot. And even maturing wise, because I feel like I've had to deal with so much the past year that it's just absolutely insane that I'm at the level of maturity and like okayness right now. Because I think last time around, I was talking to Dr. Boston and I was complaining about like, I didn't even think I was going to make the Olympics because my body was hurting. To whereas like now I've had to deal with a lot of real life problems to where anything in the gym, I'm like, okay, like it could be worse. And that's just my mentality when I go into that. I get really, really tired, like just fatigued super easily. It's hard for me to like even get up out of bed. My face gets swollen and my body just aches. I mean, I am not allowed to take like Tylenol, Advil like everyone else does. So I'm kind of just going out there like literally just me. And when I can't even like walk around, he's like, okay, yeah, we're just going to do basics today. We're going to take it light. And also it just affects me so much mentally because it's like, why does this happen? Like it always happens at the wrong time and it's just frustrating. But yeah, we have a good balance now.
No Tylenol or Advil because of it'll affect your kidneys?
Yeah, we just don't want it to like spike like inflammation or something like that. So I just I don't take anything just to avoid that.
And what do you do for the aching and pain then?
Cry. It works every time. It gets me on everything.
So relatable. Again.
I'm Suni, I'm there with you.
Just cry.
Yeah.
Also, one correction from another episode we were talking about Toradol and what you can use. It won't make your it will not make your internal.
Jessica wanted to do a whole Toradol thing.
I wanted to so bad, and then you can't. No, it won't make your internal organs explode. There's a concern that it can hurt your internal organs. Not when it's used on a regular basis. When it's overused and you're doing, it's overuse is the problem with it. So, and luckily, the athletes can't take enough of it to make it overused at this point. So this is Suni's second Olympic trials that she's placed second to Simone, second time in a row. Is this fortuitous?
Who can say? We won't know until the Olympics.
Andrade does.
I mean, in terms of what you're looking at right now, looking ahead for the Olympics, you have Simone as the all-around favorite, Andrade as the favorite for all-around silver, and then shrug emoji for your bronze medal, see who brings it on the day. So sure.
If Andrade does her new vault, is she still favorite for silver?
Yeah, but I mean, she's putting pressure on Simone.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay.
I also have some questions about valuation of
right. Well, that's the thing.
That would be very interesting to follow.
Yeah.
But if we assume that I think your default for the US lineups for this Olympic team, which, we'll see how training goes, things change, things happen at the Olympics, would be Simone, Suni, and Jordan Chiles all in the all-around in qualification. So it's another situation where you have to make the all-around final first on a good team that is capable on any given day of getting big scores.
You have a deep need to discuss some scoring, and I want to give you the opportunity.
Okay. We do need to talk about this because I wasn't really paying attention to this at the time, and you knew Suni was having like a time of it on beam on day 2, fell on her mount, grabbed the beam later in the routine. But okay, how did she get a 6.3 D score for this routine that she didn't have a dance combination in? Is my question. Because I have this routine as a 5.6 and she got a 6.3. And I have some questions about that and about what we're doing. Because I think they must have given switch half to split ring jump credit for combination. And like she goes to the movies in between those two elements. Like she does her switch half. She went to see Inside Out 2 and was like, I loved it. And then she came back, got back up on the beam and did a split ring jump. The individual elements were lovely. I think, Suni is the only one in this competition who should be allowed to do a switch leap with half turn. But if we're giving that connection, I think that's unrealistic.
Yeah. We'll see if we can get some answers for you about that. Because there are non-US judges judging here, 3 of them. And there is one of they had one of the top D judges, one of those 25. There's only 25 of them in the world that have tested the highest on the judging test, and one of them was here judging floor. So it was in floor and bars. So, right, because those were the ones that were floor and bars, beam and balls. Yes. So anyway, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Also, going back to Suni, what Suni was talking about and talking to Dr. Faustin, that's the woman, the doctor that you see on the floor at all the meets. And she's the one that was holding DiCello's face in her hands after her Achilles injury on vault. So the athletes seem to really respect her and respond to her.
The Suni's bars routine from day 2, go back to bars from being earlier in the competition was one of the triumphs of Olympic trials, because that was like, okay, we're really seeing Suni do Suni bars, where like earlier in the year, we were really just like holding on for dear life, hoping that she was going to hit that Jaeger full. First day of trials here, it was a really good routine, but she hit her foot after the bar wash, so the score was lower and there was, a significant error in there. And then this one was Suni doing Suni on bars in a way that's very encouraging for, trust the process timeline of how she's going to be able to integrate her intended difficulty and have an amazing routine ready for the Olympics that I'm excited to see. And it's one of those things where, sometimes you get to the Olympics, it's like we've seen all these routines so many times throughout the year that we know what to expect. But with Suni's peaking strategy, we do not know what to expect from her on bars. Like, what's she going to do? What's she going to throw in? Presumably, she's intending to connect Bardwaj to Van Leeuwen for another 2/10, because that's kind of like, we've seen her do that in training a couple times, this kind of feel. So that's already an upgrade of 2/10. But, she's got a kind of a bag of tricks. So I'm excited to see how she's feeling and how things look at the Olympics. She did a double layout full on floor. And like many everyone times. Were like, just put you're in bubble wrap soon. He's like, actually, I'm going to do a double layout full on floor. And maybe you don't need another floor routine because my dance elements are the best ones.
She did tell us that a funny story about how, like, her coach would be like, no, you can't do that. Don't do it. And she's like, oh, you don't think I can do it? And then she goes and does it. And her coach is like, did you do that just to prove me wrong? And she's like, well, I can do it. And one of those stories was about connecting her hard wash to Van Leeuwen. And then originally her coach was like, no, you can't do it. And so she was like, I'm going to show you. And of course she did do it. And then she did it again and again. And he was like, okay, all right, you've got it. So you could see she was trying in warm-ups here to maybe put it together, but thank God she didn't, because she just needed to do the best she can right now.
Yeah.
And that's what she did.
I'm telling you, good-natured spite is a great motivator.
Yes.
Bad-natured spite is also a great motivator, but unhealthy in the long run, probably. But good-natured spite is the best D-score motivator that there is.
Jordan Chiles.
Yes. Jordan Chiles is going to come to trials, and she's going to finish third all around.
Yep. So she is one that she did have a fall on that second day.
Yeah. Like Simone and like Suni, the veterans were like, we're on the team. So
that's why Simone was like, we just had to get it out of the way.
This is a loser.
Yeah. But in general, I felt like she was the most herself, which is when she always does well, which she was like getting up on the podium, dancing, telling the crowd to cheer. Like she was 100% in Jordan zone. She didn't upgrade any vaults, no Almanars, no other vaults.
Yeah.
But she did everything she needed to. And like
she did what she needed to do. She did Jordan on bars, which I think ultimately after Shilese's injury was the most important thing for her to do at this competition, which is the routine is always going to be a solid lower 14 because it's incredibly consistent and she has her legs together on every element. Basically is why it's a very long, I mean, as we talked about, it's a very long routine, a lot of cast handstands. There are room for deductions in this routine. I think she does as best you can do of minimizing them because it's just so crisp in terms of, you know, piked positions, pack positions, just legs together. This is easy. This is the same every time. So she did what she needed to, like Suni, but a lower score, did what she needed to do on bars. And then it sort of was, when you're looking at this team, okay, Jordan fell on beam. She wouldn't be a team. You would have Hezly go in the team final on beam rather than Jordan Chiles at this point anyway. And then she hit floor again. So.
Yep. And she did hit, did we say she's third on bars? Yeah.
I was saying she hit bars.
Yeah, and I'm just saying she was third on bars behind Suni, Lee, and Simone Biles. So, like, more to your point.
She's your number 3 bars worker.
Backing it up.
And then Hezly can go in the team final too, should you need it.
Yeah. Jade Carey. I asked her.
Carey nailed it.
She just was totally fine. No worries. I asked her about the hand symbol at the end of her floor routine. She does the medal sign and or the ward off the devil Italian sign. And so I asked her what the hand symbol at the end of her routine means. And she said, you know, she just kept doing it while Betty Aquino and her were working on her floor routine, and Betty Aquino choreographed her floor routine. And one time she just did it at the end of her routine. And Betty was like, that's it. That's your ending pose. So that's how it came about. Here's what Jade told us. Here's Jade talking about handling pressure.
I think I've learned to deal with pressure a lot. We were kind of joking yesterday because I got a little nervous before beam, and my college team, we had a lot of issues on beam this year, and my coach was like, no, you're set up for this. Like, your team has made sure that you're going to hit beam under pressure.
Here's Jade talking about the redemption tour.
I think, honestly, we've been talking about it for the past 3 years, all of us. Like, not a single one of us had the whole experience that we wanted. There's something that each of us wanted to be better at. So the 4 of us, like, kind of sticking together and really wanting to make this team was really special for that to happen, because we've all worked so hard to come back from that. And so now we're just ready to get that redemption.
Here's Jade talking about all the interactions that we saw between her and Simone about her Amanar.
I know, I was saying that I thought I was going to die. Like, I thought I wasn't going to land on my feet because she was telling me to, like, pull my feet through, and I didn't for some reason. So we were just laughing because I didn't do that, and I was trying to.
So ultimately, what do you think how did Jade make it where she made? What were the 2 game changers?
I mean, the game changers for Jade are always her vault and floor, but she scored what she needed to score with her chung. And ultimately, I think it proved the right decision to still go with the chung as her primary vault. The Amanar was a little short, especially that second day she was talking about. She's like, she didn't do what Simone said. If you don't, as everyone has learned, if you don't do what Simone says, you're gonna regret it. But she also got the scores on floor and broke 14. So I think my contention is, if everyone had stayed healthy, if we had had the trials we wanted, and everyone was like pristine at the end, the Olympic team would have been Simone, Suni, Shilese, Skye Blakely, and Jade Carey. That's what I think it would have been. Based on Jade's performance here, I think she did exactly what she needed to do and would have been, you know, the conversation we were having beforehand about who's the 5th member. I think if it had all played out as we all hoped everyone had stayed healthy, I think you would have seen Jade as the 5th member of the team based on how she performed on vault and floor here.
Speaking of that, I do want to mention that Dave Tilley, his doctor of physical therapy, is having kind of an emergency episode to answer everybody's questions about Achilles prevention, healing, injury, the need to study it more because gymnastics has like the highest rate of any sport of Achilles tears and other stuff. So you can tweet at him and ask questions, and look for that, Dave Tilley's podcast. Before we get to Heazly,
Yeah.
I want to pause and talk about some non-gymnastics things.
Okay.
Okay. First of which, the lows. Can we get the lows out of the way before we talk about the high of Heazly?
The non-gymnastics lows, that's a pretty long list at this point. I have some contributions in the things that aren't related to gymnastics lows category.
Yes.
We can save for another occasion.
Honoring Skye on the floor was amazing and a total high, and it was great. And I love that Skye was injured and they brought her out on the floor. But then they did not honor Chiles or Kayla DiCello.
Didn't you say that DiCello went home though?
Yeah, but Chiles was there, and you don't have to honor people by bringing them out of the floor.
Right.
You can show them where they're sitting in the suite, or you can show their photos if you want. Like, there's many ways to do it if people didn't want to be like traumatizing the athletes on the floor with their, encumbered limbs, walking out in the middle of everything. But there was nothing, which was weird. So I just feel like there should be consistency with that. The mariachi warm-ups costumes that the women were given, the men were given big blue plastic bags to wear that didn't fit them as the Olympic team.
Oh,
and then,
that's some 1996 Olympics Redux when they were like, Shannon Miller, you wear a triple XL, right?
Mhm.
You want this t-shirt?
I was like, what? Do they have no tailors? They no one here is 6 feet tall. Why are they wearing those? But the mariachi band costumes that were designed by Sammy Miro, a designer out of San Francisco who was a gymnast. And they were, I think the gymnasts seemed to like them. They were doing a lot of Michael Jackson moves in them. I could not think of what they reminded me of, but they were 100% mariachi uniforms. They were very odd. Jonathan Owens getting booed when they showed him cheering for Simone.
Like a football thing?
No, I think they were doing it still because of his interview or his tweets. Probably more his interview, where his tweets were definitely worse. But then he married into a queer family, so I'm hoping he doesn't think the way he did when he was 16 or whatever. He tweeted those things. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt, but I was just like, that's like Simone's fan. That's her. You're booing him. You're booing her. Like, she's not going to like that. If you want to support her, maybe keep your opinion about her husband that she chose to yourself. And the judges...
I'll need fact checker to tell me whether there's some sort of like Minnesota football reasons they would be booing Jonathan Owens or not.
Perhaps.
Fact checker says I don't think so. I'm going to defer because I literally am the most out of my depth I've ever been talking about anything on this show. It's like, what they think in football is. I don't know.
The judges not being at FIG height, even though they had all the tables at FIG height, but there were not judges sitting at them. There were USAG high performance staff sitting at them. That wasn't great. They just get a little riser. It's a stadium. They have enough risers for the judges to be at the right height. Any lows for you at the...
probably. I should have things to complain about, right? I'm me. But I'm not coming up with anything right now.
Maybe you'll think of some things as I go through the highs. You'll have counterpoints.
Yeah.
The 1984 women's team holding hands when they came out, all united. It was very weird. I don't know if you saw this on TV, but they didn't.
I love that your first high is something that you described as very weird.
What's coming next is very weird. They did like a whole dance intro where Flip the Cat brought them out and they were all like dancing, and it was a little weird, but also it was like Kathy Johnson, so of course she was going to dance the whole time. But I like that they got into it. The men's did more like a 90s boy band intro where they pretended to be like hard, tough men. Allie Raisman being at the meet to huge cheers. That was incredible. I was shocked. My mouth dropped open. The men's team lifting Asher Hong up in the air, like the Lion King. For the Lion King segment, they play the music, people hold their babies up, and the men's team held up Asher, and it was the cutest thing I've ever seen. I absolutely loved it. The men's team understands that they need to create all the moments for the TikToks and the socials and stuff like this. They understand the assignment. The veteran of World War II who helped defeat the Nazis, he was honored, and that was so lovely. And he said his favorite gymnast is Simone Biles, and she went up and waved to him and blew him kisses. He was also part of the 100th, like where they lost everybody. There's a TV show on Apple right now about them, and it's so good. It's a war movie, and even I watched it. That's how good it is. What is it called? I can't remember what it's called, but it's about the airplane drivers. They're called pilots. And their bombing staff who came in at the last minute to bomb all the things. Also, FIG President Watanabe was in attendance with right next to Lily. He was hanging out watching the meet, the women's meet, not the men's. So I'm glad he was there to see, the
this
brilliance.
Is what the crowd can be like if you do it right. Is that what?
Yes, exactly. This is what every World Cup should be like. The Paris World Cup is very good. It is very like that. Okay, so were you able to think of any?
Okay, so
NBC.
My
did a good
low
job
of watching this competition from home was I didn't know that this was a parents' competition. I thought it was a gymnastics competition. It was so insufferable, the amount of camera time and focus given to the parents and whether the parents are crying and which parents are going to cry and feelings and emotions, to the point where it was not a sporting event. It was not treated as a sporting event. It was treated as a parent show, and it was gross. Despite the fact that there were improvements in terms of, I think, routines, pacing, number of routines showed, I think was an improvement, but it was kind of undermined by how just cynically unpleasant the focus on crying and parents and feelings and crying was.
Yeah.
It was very off-putting.
I ignored every time they showed a parent, except Leanne Wong's parents, who are my favorite, because they were giving the camera nothing, which I love about them. So they were hardly shown. But I did my favorite thing, I just thought, like what you said, NBC showed way more routines, especially on day one. I feel like they barely showed, especially in the men's too, they barely showed someone like taping for 3 seconds, look at their face, back to a routine. They had that whole segment about how high Simone goes, and they compared her to like, oh, you think a basketball player jumps high to touch the basket? No, Simone is going 1 million times higher. I loved that segment. It made me so happy. And it's like we can see it in the photos comparing how high she is when she's tumbling compared to other gymnasts. And I love that they did a segment on that. And I think Sam did a really good job in her new role as well. I mean, it's not the first time we've seen her, but I thought she did a good job. Let's go back to athletes. Hezly Rivera.
Yeah.
She
did what she needed to do. She came in and she said, I have to hit 2 bars and beam routines over 2 days. I'm going to hit 2 bars and beam routines over 2 days.
Alicia said, quote, she's so mature for a 16-year-old. Many people said that. This is also my impression of her. Totally normal person, not phased. She's had realistic expectations. She was like, yeah, I'm just going to do my job. She said, quote, if it's my time, it's my time. Like she was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do my gymnastics. It's just when we're talking about how realistic expectations can change your life from being devastated to being like, oh, this is nice. That's how she was. Just really impressed with her composure in general.
Yeah. And on the point of composure, there was a really little thing that I noticed watching Hezly's beam routine on day 2 and talking about how, they had really strong beam routines, that group of gymnasts on day 2. There was a moment where she's doing front aerial and then series bonus split jump straddle jump. And so it was that moment she landed her front aerial. She was mostly on, but her feet were a little askew, like heels a little off. But you're a gymnast on beam and you're familiar with this and you do it. And you could see that she wanted to step adjust, but stayed with it, leaned through it, got her series bonus in a way that might not happen at the Olympics, but had a lean correction. But I was thinking, Hezly as recently as like US Classic, a meet that had a lot of mistakes for her. And we were like, at that point, no one had her on their Olympic team, would have either stepped to break the connection or would have overcorrected or panicked or overadjusted the wrong way. And it would have turned into a big mistake. But this time she was just like, she maintained her posture. She maintained her position. She just kind of shoulder drop, leaned a little through it, but got it for small deductions, but saved the series, and it was not a large error. And that, I think that presence maintained, like, that was emblematic of her entire meet. Just that little moment, her heels a little off, but she stayed with it, and it was not a big error. And like, to be intentionally way over dramatic about it, it was like, that's the moment she became an Olympian, because she didn't panic, stayed with it, just a little off, didn't overcorrect. Whatever, it's a small deduction. You move on and you get up 5 million on beam or whatever she got the second day.
She got 14,275, which she tied Joss for first place on beam over the 2 days, but Suni got the highest score of the 14.4. But yeah, this is the thing she said. She told us I wasn't nervous at all, and she told us about, I did lots of pressure sets. We do lots of pressure sets in the gym. So yeah. And then Alicia Sacramone really praised her coaches for giving her the right strategy, which is like load her up with difficulty and then you pare it down until she's super consistent and comfortable with what she's doing. And yeah, she just never seemed nervous. And you could definitely see the nerves from some of the other competitors, but not from her. I'm super impressed. And like, she slots right in with no shy, no Skye on beam. Yeah, you can put her right in there. 56,325 on day 2, which is, so
that was second all around on day 2, right?
Right, that's a big deal score.
And she won E-score for the meet, right?
Yep. And we always talk about her oversplits and her line, her positions, her angles. I don't want to say lines, because lines is a loaded word, which has often just meant body type. Her angles are very nice.
Just get rid of that switch half and we'll be happy.
Yeah, just everyone get ready to freaking switch out.
No one but Suni do a switch out.
Yeah. Joss Roberson, first alternate.
Another person who we saw a dramatic peak and dramatic improvement as we went through the competitions this year, from being in a place of she's still clearly dealing with this injury that happened at Worlds last year. And that's what it looked like early in the year, where we were not seeing her perform at the level we saw last year or the level we would go on to see at like the second day of nationals and Olympic trials, but continued improving each time. And very secure beams both days was one of the most impressive things for Josh. Josh
was there too.
That hasn't, like, she's always had a ton of difficulty, hasn't always been the most consistent. Like, you're always a little worried that she's going to come off really solid. Her first 2 pass landings on her floor on day 2, I was a little surprised her floor score on the second day wasn't higher. I mean, yes, I'm not like, why was like, Joss's execution score so low? Like, I know there are things to take, but I was like, she nailed both of those landings in terms of best ever.
Like her
best ever
into
pass
cake.
landings. Yeah.
Like, yes. A toothpick and Jello, a toothpick and cake. What else lands like that? Yeah, you put a toothpick in Jello all the time, right? Joss, this is the other thing.
Jello's stupid. I know that's not really relevant right now. I just want to put it out into the world.
I will never mention Jello to you again, ever, Spencer.
Post 2 hospitalizations, I would just like to say, if I never see Jello again in my life, it will be too soon.
Jello's banned. Jello's over. It's canceled.
We're done with
it. No, cake from here on out.
Yeah.
Joss told me that she was still in pain earlier in the year, and that's why she couldn't really do her skills, and she was super frustrated. And so she went back, and they reworked with her physical therapist, like what therapy they were doing on her ankle and what she was taking. And then when she could finally do things without pain, then she got her confidence back to actually attempt the skills. And like she told us what happened to her ankle, and like her ankle was jacked up. Like she tore all the deltoid ligaments on the side.
That's the medical term. Yeah.
Yes, jacked up. All the ligaments on the outside, the deltoid ligaments, the ligament on the inside, and then she had an injury to a bone as well. So it's all the things with her ankle. So it makes sense that she was terrified and in pain to do things. So you can see why she's come back so well when she doesn't feel like that anymore. Leanne Wong, second alternate. So she is not the first U.S. gymnast to concurrently do elite gymnastics and make national team while in college.
No.
She's not the first, but she is the first to concurrently be an Olympic alternate while being in college.
I mean, sure. Okay.
She's very proud of this.
Jade's on the team.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. Yeah. She's also like kind of does a lot. I thought you were going to be like, she's also the first Olympian to be in college and successfully own and operate a bow business, which is like,
you know what's interesting about the bow business, and that she told me it actually had helped her family for a while because her dad was out of work for a short time. So her bow business supplemented the family income, which is like saving the family while she's doing elite gymnastics and in
saving
college.
Gymnastics. It's just, it's all of it at the same time.
She also, you guys, getting the deep information you're all wondering about. She did drop organic chemistry. Thank God. She finished her first summer class, and now she's already started her second college class. It started the Monday after Olympic trials. Her second college class of the summer starts about patient care or something. So,
Leanne, you're making us all look bad. Is the moral of that story?
But gymnastics wise, she busted out that chung out of nowhere.
The trials upgrade of our dreams. We love a Olympic trials upgrade, and Leanne understands what the people want.
So I don't know if they showed any of her warm-up on that second day on vault, but her warm-ups were just to her butt. Tried the chung, went to her butt. Tried the chung, went back to just doing a half. Do a half again. Go back to basics. Then never did it in the warm-up, and then busted it out in the competition. And I asked her, like, how did you bust that out of nowhere? Because your warm-up, she was like, I have no idea. I don't know how I did it.
She's supposed to say college gymnastics.
She did say college gymnastics prepared her to be ready for anything.
Because it's always ridiculous.
Yep.
Yeah, do you think so? Okay, so Leanna's alternate with Joss Roberson, all around standings. Do you think it was just all around standings, or was there a consideration like something happens to someone on bars? Leanne has more of a bars score than, Joss or Jade or Tiana or Kaliya. Like, do you think that was part of the consideration, or it was just your all around is there?
No, I think they just went in order, and there was absolutely no thought put into anything about who was I think they're so terrified still to go out of all around order for a Worlds or Olympics that they're not going to do it anymore. So, I mean,
they did use DiCello as the alternate Worlds last year instead of Kaliya Lincoln, I think, because of her event coverage. So there's precedent for diverging from the all-around standings in favor of someone who can contribute.
An all-arounder. Yeah. Right. But I think in this case, it was just like, boop. Here. Yeah. Well, in this case, I have to say, though, actually, no, they totally, I mean.
So you're saying her chung upgrade is the reason she's a traveling alternate rather than a non-traveling alternate? Because that's a 1 point over 2 days. That's a 1.2 difficulty upgrade.
Yes, that's what I think. Do I think they'll have her do that vault? No. But if you needed her,
they won't have her do anything if she's an alternate.
Right. Well, I know. I mean, if they pull her in, if they need her.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because it's not a great chunk. But I mean, it did place her. Where was she?
She works it out. I mean,
is
if we're talking
third.
about the top 10 jankiest chungs we've seen in competition, it is not making that list.
It's true. I mean, I guess it'll depend how consistent she is with it in their training. Because this was like she busted it out of nowhere. I mean, this is the thing that the college athletes can do too that is amazing. And both her and Jade talked about that. And Jade also said, I barely did any of my college routines this whole season. And it was killing her not to do her full difficulty. But her dad was like, trust the process. And as we know, in Brian
Is she
Carey's-
merchandising Trust the Process at this
Oh
point?
my God, she should be. Is it copyrighted?
With like
Check it.
picture of her, like big picture of her on, I'm sure someone's copyrighted it with Trust the Process, and then like Brian's head just like popping out in the background, like winking or something, just in the background, like Trust the Process. Blink. Yeah, I think it's a solid idea.
I mean, I do think in terms of alternates, if they need an alternate, it's going to be between Joss and Leanne. It's going to be very specific. They're not going to go in order. It's going to be who's out. They'll choose which one of those to pick based on the strengths of the person who's out. If anyone's out, hopefully no one is out. Yeah, and then Tiana Sumanasekera is one of the non-traveling alternates, second on beam.
I know, which sucks for her because she was really close to making the team. Great meet. It feels like, yeah, all of the decisions make sense, but it feels like a low placement relative to how well she performed, how close she was to making the team. It's like, you did more than non-traveling alternate, and that should be recognized.
Yep. And
even though you're an, they consider alternates Olympians. You're an Olympian, right? Do you
well,
get
in the
that?
U.S.,
even if you're not the U.S. I'm saying U.S.
Yes.
USA Gymnastics, not like the IOC. They're like, go away.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's like Heazly's stronger on 2 events where she's strongest on beam. I mean, her beam, she was third on beam.
Yeah.
Which is like, but she doesn't have, her bars are really weak in comparison. Weak. Like she's one of the best gymnasts in the entire country. But in terms of her bars, she's down in 12th on bars. But also huge improvements for me on bars. Kaliya Lincoln is the other non-traveling alternate. And that would be.
And the true Olympian of your heart.
The greatest wait until she's got some more years under her belt. 2028 Olympic champion, Kaliya Lincoln.
She has all the tools you need.
She has all the tools.
She has all the tools you need.
She needs to go to college so they teach her how to connect her acrobatic skills seamlessly to her dance elements with the dance. I trust LSU is going to do that for her, and then she'll be fine. Hopefully she doesn't make so much money at LSU that she's like, why would I go back to this trash USA Gymnastics team? These Olympic nonsense. Yeah.
Connor came back to do elite this year.
Yeah.
So there's like, I feel like there's a whole gang of them that could be like, we still have elite. We still have elite aspirations.
Let's hope. But I'm so happy for her. She's very happy. She's ecstatic. She's happy with how it went. The rest of us can be furious that she's, somehow didn't make
the world isn't getting, the world is not receiving the joy that is watching Kaliya Lincoln's gymnastics. Yeah. Even on events that aren't her strengths, it's still a strength to watch. And like kind of the thing I was most impressed by at Olympic trials for Kaliya was her bars, even though that's not her event, because it was such a dramatic improvement in terms of her consistency, in terms of what she's doing on bars versus what we've seen before. Yeah, the E-score is not going to be the highest, but it's actually a clean, enjoyable routine to watch, and a huge improvement for her when we talk about like event specialists or people who don't have a bars. It's like, yeah, her bar score is a little lower, but it's a nice routine.
Yep. Many countries in the world would be glad to have her bars and all those stalters on it, and her stuck dismounts. I think my dream is for her to go just get Bogan Skye to come in and work with her in beam. You live right next to each other. Just invite her in and be like, can you get me to a 15 on beam? And Bogan Skye will do it like that. No problem.
Will be like, I mean, I see your split positions. Yes.
Yes.
There's no reason you can't get a 15.
Yes. Bogan Skye for beam high performance coach. Also, we have to talk about Simone Rose, who from Washington, and Washington, the state, not the team. She highest scoring all around of her entire career at the Olympic freaking trials.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
That second day was legit.
So legit. She just needs a little more D. She got a little older.
Yeah.
And
But
she'll
I
get
feel like
a little more
another one
power.
who's growing in confidence. Like that second day of Olympic trials is the most assured I've ever seen her perform.
Yep. Yeah, she was in trouble on day one. Best artistry again of the entire meet by miles over everyone in this field. Her floor team without Nola here. Like she is the champion of artistry on floor. Evelyn Lowe, I love watching her beam. Her beam's beautiful. It's gauge beam. There's nothing wrong with it. The lilting of the head on every skill on floor. It's so balletic. I love how they do that. Zoe Malomo, very nervous on day one. Much better on day two.
Fixed that bars dismount on day two. She got it.
Yep. Day one, we were like, oh my God, she's trying to take her face off with the bar, but
Her face was very much like, see, I got it. I can do this dismount after I didn't die.
It was very
after
scary,
day two.
but
She
I
was
went
like, you
for it.
guys, I can do it.
Whew, I have never seen someone come so close to hitting their face on the high bar and not do it. I was like, that was magic, and elite gymnasts are magical. So Dulcie Kaler, she has come so far. She has gorgeous gymnastics. Her bars have come so far.
Mm-hmm.
She's just
That's
not
my
quite
favorite
there yet.
event to watch from her.
Yeah,
her
she's
bars.
beautiful. The angles.
Yeah, I feel like everyone of that group of four who we kind of said we're coming into like, you qualified for Olympic trials, you won your year, you achieved your accomplishment, and they ended up being the only four who didn't get some sort of Olympic team placement. But I think all of them came in and, you know, mistakes. No one went through clean. No one went through without a fall, without an error, but proved why they qualified. You know, there wasn't a someone else should be here. I mean, other people should have been here, especially like with all these injuries. I'm like, where's Madre Johnson? But, you know, they proved why they were there.
We have a rage/joyometer from gold level Club Gym Nerd member Stephanie. And I will leave this up to your interpretation, Spencer.
Okay.
Her rage joyometer is really okay.
That's it?
That's it.
My interpretation is I feel like the form must not be clear enough on what people are subscribing for. That seems like that's my interpretation. Because maybe Stephanie just wanted to be a gold level Club Gym Nerd member and didn't want to do a rage or joyometer or didn't know that was an option and was like, what is this? That I respect. I respect Stephanie for that.
Totally. Stephanie, get in touch with us. And if this is not what you intended, although it is hilarious, we can do a do-over. If you want a rage or joyometer too, you can join a Club Gym Nerds gold level at gymcastic.com. I felt like she saw both the men's and the women's Olympic team warm-ups and was like, really? Okay. As in, really? This is what you put them in? Garbage bags and mariachi, but at least say that it's like an ode to the Mexican heritage of, I don't know, someone of that, you know, Texas and California used to be Spain and Mexico, so that's why, and they have the most gymnasts. I don't know, have a story to go with it. And then she was like, but okay.
Talk about really okay. Which should also be our new logo. It should just be like, really? Okay.
Spencer. One of the Tennessee Tipping Point judges came to the live show.
And were they like, let me tell you something?
I'll tell you all about it on Behind the Scenes this week. Don't worry.
Do I want to know?
Yes, you want to know. I'll tell you. Okay, so yeah, thank you so much for supporting us, Stephanie. We couldn't do the show without people like you supporting us. I want to mention the men. So we went over the men. We have a whole episode on the men after the team was named, so you can check that out. It's very detailed. But the men's team: Asher Hong from Stanford, Paul Judah from University of Michigan, Brody Malone, who was at Stanford and now is at Evo in Florida. Nedoroshic from Penn State and now Evo. And then Frederick Richard, one all around, got the automatic spot, also from the University of Michigan. The traveling alternate. Two traveling alternates. Shane Wiskus. Also, he was at Minnesota. Then they canceled the team while he was there, trying to make an Olympic team. He changed coaches like 6 times. Now he's at Evo in Florida. And Coy Young from Stanford. Coy, I love Coy so much. He was, wanted him to make it, but he had a lot of trouble on day 1. Shane was not there after the team was announced because he had already gone home. He had permission to leave. And
when the team was announced with the women.
Right.
He was there when
they announced it for the men.
The men's team was announced and did all that part.
But thereafter, he came out when everyone was announced. The traveling alternates are announced with the team and they come out on the floor. Yeah. Thereafter, he was not available the next day or the day after. So these are some insights into why he wasn't there. And part of it, he has a very long explanation on his Instagram. And I feel like just when I heard that he had already flown home, I was like, wow, this is a huge change. This would not have happened under the old system. And yeah, it just wouldn't have happened before. So, but this is some insight into why he might have left. And he was asked repeatedly, I think it was 5 times, about how he felt about not making the team and being an alternate. But one reporter asked him 3 times. The same person asked him 3 times. And every time people asked him, he was like, I feel numb. Next question. I feel numb. Next question. So here's what happened after that same journalist asked for the 3rd time.
I'm not answering any more of your questions, sir. Anyone else?
You got to shut it down.
Good for him. Good for him. Yeah. He went and did media. He came out.
He did his job. He answered the question.
He asked for permission to go home.
If you're going to try to prod for the answer that you're looking for when someone isn't interested in giving the answer that you're looking for, at a certain point, like, you just have to shut that down. And then he was like, any other questions? I will answer. Right. I will answer other questions, but like,
just not that.
You got to stop.
Yeah, I thought he handled everything very well. And you can see why he would be, even though everyone knew how the team was going to be selected, everybody knew all the measurements beforehand. Even if you know all that, it's still heartbreaking if you're 3rd all around and don't make the team.
Or if you're 9th all around and don't make the team. It's a huge sacrifice and you want it and all. Yeah.
Yeah, he's allowed to have his feelings. However he feels, he's allowed to have them. And so, yeah, I thought he handled everything very well. The non-traveling alternates are Patrick Hoops. The Hoops for pommel horse. He is the other pommel horse specialist. He's at the U.S. Air Force Academy. He's at the Air Force. He's at a military academy and he made an Olympic team. This is in gymnastics. That's just insane. Like, if you guys want to write into behind the scenes, all of you who have been to a military academy and can talk about how nuts it is, how you can't even stay awake, let alone like do a sport, let alone do a sport well enough to make be an Olympic alternate, make an Olympic trials, how nuts that is, please feel free to write in gymcastic@gmail.com, because it's so hard to just like stay conscious, let alone be this good at gymnastics. So Patrick Hoops is a total freak, and I am here for it. Congratulations to you, sir. Yul Moldauer, not going anywhere. He's planning on 2028. Donnell Wittenberg, also a non-traveling alternate, and the crowd loved him. He was, I mean, who doesn't love Don? He also said 2025 Worlds. He'll be there. He'll see you there, Spencer.
Yeah. Which 2025 Worlds format? Are we ready to complain? We can wait to complain about that until after the Olympics.
It's like Simone's first Worlds, where they're like, okay, here's 3 people.
Less.
It's less. It's one less.
3 people. Yeah.
Yeah, it sucks. Rhythmic, we have Avita Griskanas, she's the one that goes to Yale. And you know, all the rhythmic gymnasts have gotten like 2,000. What's the highest thing you can get on SATs now? 2,200. Don't you have that memorized? I don't know what it is. I'm sure she got it. She's like a genius. Also, Lily Mizuno made the rhythmic Olympic team, and then for trampoline, Nicole Ashtinger, Ruben Padilla made it. He also does tumbling, and then Alicia Shostak from Tumbling and Trampoline Express in Louisiana, and Jessica Stevens from Maryland made it. Gymternet news. Jessa Hansen Parker was named head coach of UW's team in Seattle. So congratulations to her. Kyla Ross got married this weekend. There were many, many reunion pics, and Michaela Maroney was there. Charlotte Drury was there. All the Olympic teams were there. Everybody was there. Also, Kern Phillips, Allie was there, of course. Jordan was there. Kern Phillips announced his retirement from gymnastics after this Olympic trials. TV viewership of trials was the highest in 8 years.
Okay, so it beat Tokyo.
It beat Tokyo.
And then it was less than Rio.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yes. I mean, that the highest in 8 years sounds like that came from NBC. But that's like, all right. That's like when college gymnasts are like, it's January of their freshman year, and it's like, she scored a career high. And you're like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's January of her freshman year. Yeah, she scored a career high. All right. Yeah, you beat Tokyo. That's good.
Sofia Kovacs was named to the Hungarian non-nominated Olympic quota spot. Mm-hmm. So she got the spot.
This was the thing about Zoya Sekai from Hungary. We thought she was going to qualify for a bars individual spot, and then they screwed up the alternates for the vault final, and then Chenga Botchkoy got the spot. So we were like, is it going to be for Zoya Sekai or Zofia Kovac, who is Kovac, who got the spot through the Hungarian process, and there was a score standard and all of that. But still very much sucks for Zoya Sekai, who was totally hosed out of an Olympic spot that she had earned.
Yep. Kim Hun-sol from South Korea has gotten the nominated spot. He is a great, amazing, incredible vaulter. He will be in Paris as well. And in It's Not Over Yet news, Shilese Jones posted to her coach, Sarah, "It's not the end for us," with a healing heart. So expect Shilese to be back. Remember, we have three whole episodes from Olympic trials that you can listen to. If you need something to listen to while you're at the beach, or even better, watching the fireworks, GymCastic to go along with the fireworks display wherever you are on this 4th of July.
If you love soundscapes,
where we celebrate the power of the pen, not the sword. That is the 4th of July, Independence Day in the United States. You can listen to our podium training podcast, our Women's Day 1, our men's final podcast. And of course, you can still get tickets for the live show replay and get all the reactions. And there's stuff that we talk about in that we have not talked about here. So new information and details for you in all of those shows. Spencer, do you have any closing words of wisdom as we head from Olympic trials into Olympic prep season? Only one.
Absolutely not.
Please remember to subscribe, review wherever you listen to podcasts. Remember to automatically download so you don't get stuck on the road on your holiday. And we'll see you Friday for all the behind the scenes stories. I have so many about trials. And until next week, till Friday, behind the scenes. Remember to take up on gay, split on rights, and thanks for listening.